Hi, welcome to a special edition of Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast. Today we have hot off the presses exclusive access to Max Willen's latest trend report from eMarketer. Max is covering the affiliate marketing landscape where he dives deep into the industry growth, challenges for publishers and advertisers, and his POV on what's next for emerging e-commerce technologies. Very excited to welcome Max today. So welcome, Max. Please introduce yourself and share a bit of your background, experience, and the exciting data you have to share with us today.
Thanks, Carrie. It's nice to be here. So I am a senior analyst on the ads and media desk at eMarketer, where I cover a bunch of different things, including retail media, paid social advertising, web publisher monetization, and affiliate marketing. This is my, third year at eMarketer. And before I joined eMarketer, I was a reporter for about 10 years, where most of my time was spent covering media and technology. I worked for Digiday, I worked for Newsweek. I interned at Ad Age for a while, and spent most of the time that I worked at Digiday covering publishers. And while I was there, I got really into affiliate as a coverage area. This was around the time that you started to see, I guess you would affiliate folks call them the content people. So folks like Vox Media and Dotdash and BuzzFeed really kind of look around and go, oh, wait, this actually might be kind of a big growth area for us. And so I covered that pretty intently. And one of the first things I did when I joined eMarketer was wrote a report on the affiliate space. This is going to wind up being my third, the one that's publishing this week. And for reasons that are still not super clear to me, that they gave me the first that eMarketer had done in quite a while, but we have ramped our coverage up since I joined. And I think the key reason, frankly, is just, subscriber interest. We're a business that generates revenue in lots of different ways, but, the kind of foundation of it is a big subscriber base, and we're responsive to their interests. So that's certainly, they certainly could have read the first one I wrote, which I think is interesting, and said, interesting, that's fine, next. But the interest has grown and grown, and so they have me working on it more and more as the years wear on.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's one thing we've talked about. We share that interest in the fact that there is so much opportunity and potential, like you're saying, the publishers generating revenue, but also for brands and marketers to get in front of such a broader audience through affiliate. But yet it's still kind of, even though it's been around for 20 plus years, it's still, trying to get a seat at the table, as I often say, get a seat at the media planning table to carve out more of that budget from a prioritization perspective. So I love all sorts of data and research that supports I love all data and research around, marketing perspectives, what consumers are engaging with, what marketers and how marketers are planning and aligning their strategies and budgets. But we've talked about that affiliate has so much potential. So the more data we have to help marketers recognize that this is something that really can drive revenue and growth, the better. And so, or the fact that it proves that thesis, I should say. So with that, so tell me a bit more about the goal of your trend report and what kind of what the thesis was going into this, especially kind of based on your past two papers.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, to start with sort of the goal of it, I mean, it's not dissimilar to the rest of the work that I do, where, I think I and the rest of my colleagues sort of fundamentally see ourselves as sort of synthesizers of information, where my goal is to sort of demystify or clarify, a brand or a publisher's view of a particular market. And that's true for this report as it has been for the past ones. It's a kind of a unique challenge relative to my other coverage areas because, as everybody listening to this podcast knows, this is a very kind of diffuse but also very siloed ecosystem where there aren't lots of sources of data. And so
Mhm.
in a way, it's nice because it reminds me and harkens back to what I did as a reporter, where there are things that I cover where there's so much data that, were I inclined to do so, I could basically write my entire report just by kind of sifting through Excel spreadsheets and plucking
Mhm.
out interesting facts and figures. But for this report, I have to, put my reporting shoes back on and talk to people. I think I spoke to something like 20 different executives to put this report together. And as far as the thesis, a lot of it was about sort of checking in on and looking at how far certain trends I'd noticed last year were progressing. So
Mhm.
things like uh, what is happening to the publishing side of this business as it gets more competitive, as it gets more crowded, not just because of more content folks getting in, but also influencers continuing to
Right.
funnel in,
Mhm.
but also looking at it from the consumer side too. I mean, one of the things that I noticed, I'm not actually sure it wound up in my 2023 report, but it was something that came up in a presentation that I did for a client actually, that gave me the sense that consumers are getting a lot savvier in a
Mhm.
way that at a high level I think is quite good for affiliate, because affiliate is a platform and a channel that's really kind of sustained by savvy consumers, people who want to do a lot of research, want to find trusted expertise, want to find the best deal they can on a good or a service. And so that raising that increased savvy is fundamentally a good thing, but it's
Yes.
also, I think, based on the data that I was able to find, also starting to have a bit of a cost to the publishers and the brands as well, where
Mhm.
where once upon a time a well written, thoughtful, written out recommendation of a product would be good enough. Now a consumer is reading that and going, "That's nice. I'd also like a 20% coupon or something to sort of sweeten the deal." And so looking at how that's shaped everything. And then fundamentally, this was not something that was on my radar quite as much as maybe it should have been, but just I did spend a bunch of time on this report trying to sort of wrap my head around the ramifications of Google's changes,
Yeah.
because everybody listening to this show knows that that's been a defining storyline for both buyers and sellers in affiliate. And I wanted to kind of get to the bottom of, its impact.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's you bring up a lot of good points there as well, like getting into, I think, just finding that connection between the what's going to be valuable to the market, to whether it's the brands, the publishers, and how they can use this to kind of prioritize their budgets and strategies going forward. And I think to your point, when uh, two things. One is when the research that I did last year found that the affiliate publishers were part of the consumer journey at every stage, which I found so interesting because even though it was a smaller percentage, the coupon data or coupon sites and the um, kind of the cashback sites, a lot of consumers will go to those for their inspiration and upper funnel, kind of where I need to buy something or I just want to see what's out there. I mean, if it's a good deal, I'll buy it. To your point, all the way up to the publishers, the content publishers were the number one after social and then influencer, the kind of mass media publishers, like you're mentioning, like the Dot Dash Merediths, the Conde Nast and Hearst, that those content providers, they were actually more consumers were using them at a higher percentage than Google uh, and Amazon or and marketplaces to go get that inspiration, whether they were kind of specifically looking for something or just wanted to be inspired. So it just reiterates the importance of affiliate, different publisher types in the consumer journey, and all of your data kind of helps with that to kind of give that more factual support to those investments. And then also to your point on Google at Affiliate Summit East on the commerce and content stage, that was just all the publishers were talking about. And so to your point, and as you're going to get into, it was a big impact, and it does signal a need for real strategy changes and prioritization. So with that, I'd love for you to kind of dive into your findings and data. Share with us what you found.
Yeah, sure. I mean, one thing that was a very pleasant surprise, and I think this again speaks to the, you know, interest that we've been fielding from our customers in this space, is this report for the first time includes one of our own forecasts. So we have an entirely separate team that does forecasts, and we decided to invest the time and resources needed to do an affiliate forecast for the first time. And I can speak to it at a high level. I didn't bring my whiteboard with me today, but at a high level, we were able to sort of draw on data that we already have about sort of rising retail e-commerce activity, which is one of the kind of main engines of this space. We were able to draw on and synthesize a lot of third-party data, which is kind of a hallmark of all the forecasts that we build. Yeah. And then again, also same thing of just sort of speaking to folks at agencies to get a feel for what it is that they see coming. And the big, I guess, headline number is that we expect that spending on affiliate in the United States is going to approach $11 billion this year. It's, I think, 10.72 is the number that's in there, and then it will be just shy of 12 billion in 2025. And this is, I think, for folks that have spent the time and energy to sort of find affiliate forecasts, they kind of appear on the radar screen every once in a while. Our forecast sees something that's not dissimilar to what they see, where thanks to sort of steadily rising e-com activity per digital buyer, thanks to more and more agencies getting more and more interested in driving sales online, those are all really steady and solid tailwinds behind this space that are not going to stop blowing for maybe forever, until we're literally only buying things on the internet, I guess. But that's a ways away, I would imagine.
Yeah, but that's really interesting. On the growth is definitely an important or very valuable projection, right? Like it just reiterates like what we were saying about that there's growth here, that there's value that from the publishers and the brands, and people are using it. Not to put you on the spot with this one, how does that compare to other channels? Do you other, or like a Meta or search kind of forecasts?
So there's definitely there's a lot of different directions you could take it, right? So search, it's growing faster than search as a spend category. It is growing not as quickly as social, but it's in that general vicinity of sort of low double-digit growth. It's quite a bit slower than retail media as a point of comparison, although almost everything is quite a bit slower than retail media. I just finished a forecast there, and I think we're expecting something like 25% growth a year for the next 5 years or something crazy like that. But it is, for a channel that, to your point, has been around for 20 years, which in digital is, it might as well be 500 years. Yeah. It's growing at in a way that I think is really quite healthy. Yeah. Relative to its age. And I think a lot of the reason for that is how, I guess, dynamic and kind of, as I said before, diffuse it is, where, you can spend or use affiliate as the investment mechanism to reach people on CTV. You can use it to reach people, on a website that you as an advertiser might own and operate yourself. You can use it to reach people on, some of the pages of some of the most visible publishers in the world. You can use it to reach people, you know, when their heads are down and they're just trying to get their back to school shopping done, you can, if you are open-minded about the channel, you can use it to reach people almost anywhere. And I think that
Right.
that flexibility is a main reason why the growth is as healthy as we see it to be.
Yeah, definitely. And one more question on the data. So I know when you're talking about the dollar amount, so 12 billion might not, I come from the media buying world, 12 billion, well, should feel like a really large number to the average person. To media buyers, planners, the big holding companies, that's actually not. That's a drop in the bucket. But do you think it's fair to say that it shouldn't actually be compared to search or social budgets or other media budgets because affiliate budgets tend to be pay for performance primarily? So you're not actually spending a lot of money on impressions that aren't or media flights that aren't driving conversions and revenue. Like, what's your thought on that?
That's a really interesting observation. I think it's maybe even something that's worth kind of exploring in a
Hmm.
subsequent report, because to your point, you can kind of do a lot. And this is, I think, even manifest in the research that I know you did last year and that other folks have examined, where, you know, if you go in and maybe do an affiliate campaign with an influencer, for example,
Hmm.
and the KPIs or the sort of structure of the deal is such that the influencer's only getting paid when someone visits your site and converts.
Yeah.
There's still potentially tens of thousands of people who are getting exposed to your brand for the first time, and
Hmm.
potentially looking at it in a new light. And maybe if that TikTok post or that Instagram reel doesn't drive them to convert right away, maybe they reach for your product more readily the next time they encounter it in the wild. And
Hmm.
that's not really, again, represented in the let's call it 4% of people that convert or whatever it happens to be. And
Right.
so
Right.
um I think a lot of the really savvy advertisers have kind of done that math and figured out
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
the effective value of the transactions is different from the actual amount of money changing hands, and that's going to
Right.
differ depending on the buyer. But I think that's a really savvy observation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that just reiterates that what I keep saying over and over again is that affiliates should have a more prominent seat at that media planning table, just because from a dollar perspective, it feels smaller. To your point, from an impact perspective, it's there's so much more. So yeah, the revenue growth is definitely a big number and something that all of us in the space should be excited about. So what else? What were your other findings?
So the one thing that really leapt out at me and struck me as really interesting was when I first went into writing. When I started my research for the year, one thing that I knew I was going to have to start to figure out was the extent to which retail media and affiliate marketing intersect or
Yeah.
don't, because
Hmm.
as we've already talked about on this podcast, retail media is this kind of freight train that's plowing through media as a whole. And
Hmm.
if you kind of look at it from a certain vantage point, you can see a lot of ways in which affiliates could wind up being really valuable to a retail media network. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, you know, Amazon's advertising business would not be what it is without the years and years and years of Amazon associates
Yeah.
driving people to their O&Os.
Hmm.
But, above and beyond that, there were, things like, Button figuring out a way to sort
Yeah.
of create offsite inventory for commerce publishers, things like that. But as I was doing that research, I found something that I wasn't really expecting, which is this notion that this is a channel that is, I think, about to enter an era of what I call data stratification, where for publishers that sit on and have effectively corralled the first party data that they're generating from affiliate and that they
Hmm.
have on their audiences, they are going to start playing a fundamentally different game and enjoying a fundamentally different relationship with advertisers than the folks that don't have it. If you're a publisher who can use the data that you sit on to, dial up or dial down a discount level to, get a better conversion. If you're able to,
Mm-hmm.
target the content that you generate only at a specific cohort of your audience, that's, in a way that's going to drive better conversions.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you can even, if an advertiser comes to you and says, we want you to reach everybody except these people. And if you can turn around and say, sure, we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden you are,
Yeah.
Entering into a space of trust and sort of strategic importance that you just aren't, another publisher that doesn't have those same capabilities just isn't going to be offering. I'm not saying that the people in that latter camp are,
Mm-hmm.
doomed or should, turn the lights off or anything, but it is, we are going to start seeing different kinds of relationships and different kinds of tactics deployed as more and more publishers start to leverage the data. And also, frankly, as more advertisers start to get savvy about this too. So,
Mm-hmm.
you talked a bit during this conversation about how a lot of the challenge here is that, affiliate doesn't always get a seat at the media planning table. And that's because the people on the buy side who are handling affiliate are, in some dusty corner on the third floor of the office.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if, the parent company maybe has first party data that they want to bring into a clean room or, use to model out who they want to see, it's not a given that the affiliate team is going to even have access to that stuff or know how to use
Right.
it. So there's kind of evolution that needs to happen on both sides, but I think we can see the beginnings of it happening already.
This podcast is brought to you by Break Room Labs. Break Room Lab gummies for energy and focus feature an optimized blend of low caffeine, vitamin B12, and nootropics to refresh your mind and body in as little as 5 minutes. Low sugar, tasty, and convenient. Get 20% off when you visit breakroomlabs.com.
I love that idea of the data stratification and how, it just reminds me of some of the programmatic media buying strategies, but in programmatic, you're talking about a single ad, placement where you're kind of taking it from the whole, like, if I'm getting correctly, based on what we know about the visitor,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to serve them the whole page, the whole like content they're going to receive is going to be much more customized versus just the individual ad, which is very smart. But to your point, you need the the data scientists or the programmatic team or the team within the organization that's thinking that way to pull in the affiliate marketer and planner.
That's
I think
right.
the other piece when it comes to first party data that I've spoken to a lot is that with retail media, they're converting on somebody else's site, so somebody else owns that data.
That's right.
I just had an industry leader on for a future episode. We talked a lot about with Amazon. If you're super savvy, you can use the Amazon Marketing Cloud to actually use that data. But for the other big retailers, you don't get access to that data. But when you're using an affiliate strategy, platform publishers, and they come to your site and convert, you now own that customer. You own that data. Now that cookies aren't going away, that's, when cookies were going away, that was even more important, but it's still extremely important. So it just, again, when it comes to affiliate versus retail media, I think I just want to reiterate that you get to own your customer and build that relationship through so many other avenues. If it's your email, you can target them on social. Now you can target. So there's so much more you can do. So again, getting that data part of it helps marketers and brands be so much smarter and efficient with how they're engaging their prospects and customers.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So what else? Keep going. I know there's so much great data in here.
Yeah, there was a I've alluded to this a couple of times already, but just to sort of foreground it, the one thing that I was expecting was to sort of reckon with or engage a lot with the notion that this space is just getting really competitive from the sell side, where, there's obviously been legacy players that have had a big influence over the channel for quite some time. But, if you rewind, let's call it 8 years ago, 10 years ago, there was a sense, especially among certain kinds of publishers, the editorial guys, even the, tech providers, definitely the earlier influencers that were playing in this game, that there was a kind of a green fields feel to this channel. That's pretty much gone now. This is now a very, very competitive space. And when you sprinkle in, or I guess drop in, the substantial audience distribution disruption that came from Google, you wind up with some pretty tough results through the start of the year. And this was borne out by data that I got from a bunch of different networks, and also just talking to folks. And what's so interesting to me about this is that I mentioned before that before I joined eMarketer, I worked as a reporter at Digiday, and I covered publishers. And there was constantly this conversation around, well, we got to really, make sure we don't get too reliant on Google, or we got to make sure we don't get too reliant on, Facebook for traffic. And this year, talking to folks for this report was the first time that those conversations felt different to me. It wasn't a kind of like, boy, this really is kind of important. It was more of a like, I've got to figure something out. Okay. I cannot be in a position where I am, at risk of having my traffic fall by 90% because this partner that, in many respects behaves as though they are completely indifferent to me, decides to, turn a knob in their office and, imperil my business. It's not clear to me that there is an easy alternative sitting there, but seeing how quickly and how, energetically people are looking for alternatives is really interesting. And it's also too, like with all things affiliate, it's led to certain kinds of partners really taking off. Last year when I wrote this report, I wrote about folks like Levanta, and my section on them wound up on the cutting room floor because I just didn't have space for it. But this year, they and the others like them are doing great, because publishers everywhere are going, I gotta find a way to help myself here, and they're a perfect opportunity.
No, actually, I was thinking about Levanta when you were talking about Amazon and retail media in relation to affiliate, because as soon as I learned, and they're only a two-year-old or almost 2-year-old brand. I've spoken with Rob a few times, and it's so fascinating to me coming from the Amazon, the e-commerce. I've spent years researching and building strategies for brands on e-com and retail media. So watch that evolution firsthand, and then seeing Levanta and what they're capable of. So smart. And I immediately wanted to call every D2C or, every brand selling on Amazon and say, you've got to do this. What we saw was that, and to your point, like, it definitely impacted revenue growth for the publishers, because back when I was at the agency, on the agency side, the publishers were quicker to pick up content to promote when they could send shoppers to Amazon, because they knew shoppers felt more, what we saw in the data, shoppers felt more comfortable clicking through to an Amazon than to brand.com to make the purchase. And I've done the same thing. One, you know what you're going to get shipping. It's going to be easier to return. In most cases, I can just go to my Whole Foods or UPS store versus, something more complicated with a direct brand, etc. So I do think like Levanta is such a smart overlap of the e-commerce, retail media strategy, and affiliates. I'm glad you mentioned them, and I'm very glad they didn't make that they did not hit the cutting room floor this year. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's so it's really hard to overstate how much that kind of trust in the retailer matters. I mean, this kind of factored so much into. I mentioned earlier that I wrote a report that came out earlier this year about the retail media space, and we just see Amazon's growth continuing to be as robust as it is, and really at the heart of that is Amazon Prime. I don't think it's an accident that TikTok Shop offers fulfillment, and that's one of the main reasons why I think they're going to be one to watch very, very carefully. I talked a little bit about that. Was one of the other things that I looked at a little bit. I was a little bit surprised by how much I didn't find, but one of the sort of theses that I've had for quite a while now is that social is going to sort of start becoming more instrumental and play more of a direct role in this space. Instagram kind of tiptoed into it and then retreated a while back. YouTube has kind of waxed and waned, but seeing what's happened with TikTok Shop, where TikTok has basically said almost anybody can be an affiliate on our platform. I think the cutoff now is 1,000 followers. So if you are in this kind of game at all, that's a pretty easy mark to clear. And obviously for certain verticals, TikTok Shop is kind of a non-intuitive fit. But if you are in fashion and beauty and home goods, you've probably got at least a little bit of your brain focused on TikTok Shop and how to make that affiliate business work for you as well.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I have some upcoming episodes with other marketers who are one that has really leaned in, a consumer brand that's really leaned into TikTok Shop, and she's talked about the importance of including that in the strategy. But then I also spoke with a TikTok Shop agency, and they're just talking about how it's actually, to your point, it's very easy to get involved, and they're like, you really need to just start talking to the camera. So I agree, and that's exciting to see see that grow. And to your point about Google, these are the other avenues that even publishers can engage with to drive their customers. I think one thing I kept thinking about, again, back on the commerce and content stage for Affiliate Summit East, and based on your data, is the publishers got comfortable, doubling down on SEO or tripling down, which as a I started my career in SEO, so I loved that. But to your point, they put all their eggs in their basket. Publishers today need to think like the brands do and do their own marketing strategy and their own awareness and demand and call to action strategy to drive customers to their websites, not just hope that their legacy brand awareness will do it for them, or the Google results.
And there's real upside to doing that too, right? It's not just a defensive, I've had my organic traffic, kick down a flight of stairs, so now let me start buying it. It's, if you can build a brand around the advice or research or, deals that you offer, developing the people who find value in that tend to be quite sticky. And, stickiness in a space like affiliate, I mean, it's valuable in most any corner of digital media if you're a publisher, but if in this space in particular, where stickiness is also synonymous with trust, which leads to higher conversion, which leads to potentially better commissions from advertisers, it's really an immensely powerful and important thing to aspire to get. And so if you can just devote as much mental energy as you can to figuring out how to make yourself a trusted component of a consumer's buying journey. That just pays dividends on dividends on dividends. So
yeah, and publishers can use influencers. Like it's it's like publishers looking at themselves like a brand, like the brands that they partner with, and kind of take some best practices from their playbook. Great. And so, it's so much great insight and data, Max. What else do you have for us?
Well, I would say those are the things that leapt out at me the most. I guess the final thing that I, wanted to explore a little bit more, and will probably have more opportunity to once commerce media becomes a bit more established, but really kind of looking at the link and kind of upside potential between commerce media and retail media. So I imagine everybody listening to this knows the difference between commerce media and retail media, but I'll just quickly kind of go through it. So, with retail media, the basic idea is that those are advertisements. That's advertising that's been, facilitated using a retailer's, first party data. It often, though not always, is designed to have a closed loop measurement aspect where you're, driving someone back to Amazon or Walmart or Target or whatever it happens to be. And commerce media is similar but different in that it's the first party data is typically brought to the table by a brand that's not a retailer. Maybe they're adjacent to it. They're like a financial services company, like a PayPal or a Chase. Maybe they are in a completely different vertical, like Marriott, like Planet Fitness. But it's the same idea where you have very robust first party data. You have, in some cases, pretty decent, digital scale in terms of, audiences that you can reach, and an emphasis in many respects on, driving conversions. And I look at sort of the earliest players in this space, something like a Chase Media Solutions, I think it's called. And when I look at the actual offering, I go, oh, that's an affiliate business,
Right.
And I think there's a world in which the visibility of commerce media and the, results that commerce media drives is a gigantic win for affiliate, because it just shows CMOs across the media landscape that this kind of pay per performance model inside of a trusted partners ecosystem is actually really valuable, and probably something that I should be spending more time focusing on. And that inevitably becomes a rising tide that lifts affiliate up. There's another version of the story where it just becomes one more hose sucking away the incremental dollars that might have gone to affiliate and pulling them somewhere else. And I think it's too early to say how that's going to shake out, but I think watching how those things unfold over the next year is going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah. Do you mean from the perspective of, like, for the Chase Media Solutions, that would pull from affiliate?
Correct. So there's a possibility that business goes gangbusters, and a bunch of other folks spin up things like it, and the affiliates that might have been able to tap into that incremental budget are sort of left out in the cold. But the opposite could happen.
Yeah. But from a brand perspective, they might be looking at that as another publisher, but you're saying, so it's shifting to new publisher solutions versus like it's right. So like an affiliate manager would still be managing both, but more just shifting from more traditional affiliate publishers.
Yeah, I suppose that's right.
Like a brand side or agency side affiliate manager.
That's right. Although there's also a possibility too, where, maybe there's a brand side person and they touch a portion of their retail media budget, and they maybe get a bit of incremental dollars to sprinkle onto a commerce media solution like a Chase or like a Planet Fitness. And so instead of that incremental dollar going to the affiliate manager, the retail media guy just takes it and spends it on, a business that effectively offers a kind of affiliate solution, but it goes into their spreadsheet as something else, which.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. I hear what you're saying. And I think Yeah, because my first instinct is, but this is great. It brings a little bit more elevation to a little bit more shine to an affiliate strategy to get the attention. But to your
Exactly.
point, if it's then it becomes who gets to manage it. But I think you're spot on as well, because I remember seeing a promotion, maybe it was for Chase, and it was a big promotion that we now do this, and I'm like, that's actually nothing new. You've just like you're doing some PR for something that affiliates have been doing for a long time, with the card linked offers. So it's, but to your point, it's growing and it's working and it's a trusted space. So
That's right.
yeah. Great. No, all of this data, Max, as we're talking about, like it just reiterates even more to the the executives who are holding the purse strings on where to allocate budget for really driving that revenue, in business growth and customer acquisition and reach, all the things that go into revenue growth, can be found through the affiliate. Um, a couple things, like what, I guess, as this serves as ideally a tool for brand marketers to go to their CMOs and say, like, look at this data, we need to look at this as an investment. Are there specific values for a publisher versus a brand or emerging technology that kind of come to light here?
So I think that there's, I hope that anybody that's interested in this space, be they buy or sell, can get something interesting out of the data. I think that if I'm a publisher and I'm reading my report, I think one thing that is probably most valuable is to sort of level set on how everyone else is doing. I to the point that you made about Affiliate Summit East and just talking to publishers,
Mm-hmm.
everybody is kind of feeling pinched by things that Google did, and kind of discount prevalence, but getting a feel for how that looks, I think, would be valuable to them, and also too to just sort of get a feel for what the upside is for investing more in first party data. If I'm an advertiser, I think I always try to write my reports in a way that will be useful for folks that are investing in the space and for folks that are maybe considering investing in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think having not just the kind of top line data of the growth that we project, but also having a feel for who is doing really well, what are the kind of big picture platform movers and shakers that are going to influence how savvy investment will play out in the space is going to be valuable. And then I think to that specific carve out for technology providers, I mean, I would imagine that anybody that considers them one of those is probably feeling pretty positive, because they, as a group, I would say, also have a pretty robust and differentiated kind of first party data that they can bring to the table, which is going to stand them in good stead as this space moves forward. And especially also too, because even though people have been buying things on the internet now for decades, the kind of expectation and norms around where and how we transact are always kind of fluid. This is why people are endlessly hopeful about live stream shopping, for example, which I personally happen to be sort of bearish about. But it's a brand new thing that might catch fire. It's always impossible to tell. And for the technology providers who, if there's a through line between them all, a kind of commonality to them, it's that they are kind of innovating the shopping experience. And what we see in the data and from talking to people is that people are amenable to something new if it delivers value. And that's the tech provider pub vertical to in a nutshell for affiliate.
Yeah, no, definitely. And there's so many more opportunities for advertisers to leverage a variety of different publishers, everything
100%.
From, like you're saying, content to buy now, pay later to card linked offers. It's a lot. So this has been I love hearing about all the data and insights. And Max, thank you for your research to kind of bring that strength to the affiliate industry. Can you give us your projection for kind of you talked about the industry growth to would you say 12 billion in 2025, but what else is in your crystal ball?
The part where I prognosticate wildly and irresponsibly. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I mean, I think so. It's easy way to do this is just to go, if we're talking about, going from 10.7 to, just shy of 12, how do we get there?
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's, increasing that, again, the kind of backbone of it is increased retail e-com penetration. But I think that what we're going to see is a lot more growth from the sort of tech provider vertical, frankly. So there was one piece of data that I got from a network that I thought was really interesting that sort of showed the share of actions taken, across its network, and separated out by publisher vertical. And, coupon, cashback, and loyalty all had their share drop through H1 of last year. And some of that is just down to the kind of, tonnage that comes from creators, but it's also because more and more people are embracing, new ways of shopping. And that means more commerce on social. It means more commerce in novel spaces like BNPLs, like marketplace apps, and like, I think to a lesser extent, offers created by folks like PayPal and like Chase. And so I think that things like post sale are going to continue to really bloom, because there's so much buy-in especially from brands, I think, and so much interest in finding ways to improve their margins. So it's going to be a space where I think there's going to be a lot of upside in kind of looking at the emerging areas of the space going into 2025, because they're, I think, going to do really well for themselves.
Yeah, and that's exciting. That's again more ways to shop, more ways to connect with prospects, and grow your reach. So, Max, thank you so much. This was great. I always loved talking data and kind of projections with you. So thank you for joining us, and hopefully we can have you on again soon.
It's my pleasure, Carrie. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining this special edition of Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast. For access to Max's research report and more insights and data, please go to revenuebasedmarketing.com. This is Carrie Curran, and we hope to see you again here soon.